In 1901, Brother Albert Soltis built a tiny chapel for private rest and prayer on the grounds of a Benedictine vineyard and winery in Covington, Kentucky. A fieldstone structure only 4 feet wide by 6 feet deep, the mini church could hold just 1 or 2 worshipers. Called Monte Cassino after the Italian monastery of the same name, the chapel was furnished with a small wooden altar, a religious statue, narrow prayer benches, and a single stained glass window. The belfry, only 8 feet above the ground, was too small for a bell. The chapel gained national attention in 1922 when it was dubbed the smallest church in the world. In 1965, the chapel was moved to what is now the campus of Thomas More College in Crestview, Kentucky. Monte Cassino, the only 2-person church in the world.
You're watching Movies Till Dawn on AFN.
America's capital city was planned with a rectangular grid of streets and with avenues running diagonally across the grid. The map is dotted with circles and squares, parks where the streets and avenues meet and the traffic goes around. Places for statues to honor Christopher Columbus, George Washington, foreign officers who helped lead the Army in the Revolution, military heroes like Andrew Jackson, Winfield Scott, George Henry Thomas, Ulysses S. Grant. Over 200 years ago, the designer Pierre L'Enfant called for statues to commemorate those whose usefulness hath rendered them worthy of general imitation, to invite the youth of succeeding generations to tread in the paths of those sages or heroes whom their country has thought proper to celebrate.
Spooky music, you know what that means.
Yeah, this guy's in trouble.
What did you want to talk to me about, Walter?
Well, and make it fast.
What kind of people do you like, Carla?
People who are street smart.
Oh,
And taller.
thinking people.
That leaves you out, Sparky.
Look, it's terrorists or us.
Oh, alleys are always safe places to hide.
Escape routes and the people who don't plan them on the next Donahue.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Submitted for your approval. A man fleeing for his life. Could it have been avoided?
Yes, he could have avoided this whole mess by using some common sense, but no, not Sparky.
When overseas, avoid becoming a target for terrorists. Always be aware of your surroundings. Stay alert and use common sense. Being street smart is the smart way to avoid being a victim of terrorism.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Mary Hart.
And I'm Bob Goen. Join us as we bring Hollywood stars' messages to the troops.
It's a very special ET exclusively on the American Forces Network.
You're watching Movies Till Dawn on AFN.
Almost 30 years after the voyage of Christopher Columbus, Spanish explorers landed in what is now the Carolinas and called the area Aeon. In 1524, Giovanni de Verrazzano, an Italian navigator, was sent to search for a western route to Asia. His discovery was apparently the Outer Banks, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. He named the nearby land Verrazzano after himself. In 1629, Charles I granted the area to his Attorney General, Robert Heath, naming it the province of Carolina, Latin for Land of Charles. In 1663, King Charles II gave the area to 8 of his supporters. The name Carolina was dropped and Carolina adopted, this time in honor of the new king. And by 1690, a second major settlement was thriving at Charleston, far to the south, and the two areas gradually became known as North and South Carolina. North Carolina, honoring 2 kings named Charles.
Did you know that one of the busiest forts in the 1800s guarded Mobile Bay? Fort Morgan, Alabama, home of Company B, 2nd U.S. Artillery, was at its peak in 1843. But today it stands proudly as a reminder of an important part of America's military history.
Okay, the fort was initially occupied by the United States Army for about 30 years. At the start of the Civil War, the Alabama militia seized the fort from a caretaker, and then when Alabama joined the Confederacy, the Confederate States Army ran the place. The fort had a large garrison during the Civil War, but only for a brief period of time. The most men that garrison had, the fort had here for a long period of time was during the Coast Artillery era, about 1900. There were consistently between 400 and 500 men here then for about 10 years.
Oh, by the way, if you ever receive orders for Fort Morgan, better have someone recheck it. It could be a mistake.
Ireland's favorite family is on AFN. There's Hank.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Peggy.
All right, I can't handle 1,000 details, Hank.
And Bobby.
Is that all you think about?
King of the Hill. 7 p.m. AFN Fridays.
We need one!
This city has the distinction of hosting some very unusual events, from a bulldog beauty contest to a winter miniature golf tournament held in the city's skywalk system. Located here is the Salisbury House, a mansion modeled after the King's House in Salisbury, England. The home contains authentic 16th century framework and includes rafters from an English inn where Shakespeare once performed. Another famous home is the Jordan House, a designated stopover on the Underground Railroad. The city also hosts one of the largest and oldest state fairs in the country, featuring a cow sculpted from butter. As Iowa's capital, the city boasts a state house with one of the nation's largest gold leaf domes and takes its name from the river on which it was built. French explorers called it La Rivière des Moines. What city is it? It's Des Moines, Iowa.
The year was 1945. The U.S. military had been fighting World War II on 2 fronts. But with the fall of Berlin, the German High Command finally surrendered to the Allies. In the Pacific, U.S. Marines landed on Iwo Jima, about 750 miles from Tokyo. They fought savage opposition for a month before taking the island. This led to the invasion of Okinawa, the biggest battle of the Pacific. After bitter fighting, this island on Japan's doorstep fell to the Americans. Then in August, the U.S. Army Air Forces dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was the first and last military use of the atomic bomb. The result? Japan surrendered, bringing an end to World War II. All part of serving our country in 1945.
I'm Max Keeble, the world's greatest 7th grader. What can I say? I totally rule. Favorite? And all the other kids just wish they were me. At least, that's my dream. Unfortunately, this is real life.
It's gonna be a rough year for you.
Filled with real jerks. No!
Keeble!
And even the principal is a real problem.
I've got my eye on you, Max Keeble.
But today,
I've got big news.
I'm getting a chance to make all my dreams come true.
We're moving to Chicago.
We're moving.
Friday.
Think about it. If I'm moving, I have one last day to take a stand. To make the school a better place for the kids I'm leaving behind. We're not moving?
Oh, goody.
He's so happy he can't speak.
Max Keeble's Big Move.
You're watching Movies Till Dawn on AFN.